the channel. My name is Wolf. In this video, we're going to talk about weapon attachments and weapon tuning, what it is, how to do it, and the huge problem with weapon tuning as of now. As you can see, we are in the new firing range. I spent a lot of time here the last couple of days trying different weapons, attachments, tuning the attachments, trying to navigate this as the best way to explain it to the casual gamer that does not have hours to play each day. But first, thank you for all the recent support. We are closing in fast on the required public watch time hours for the YouTube partnership program and gaining some subscribers each day. So thank you so much. Currently, 90% of my viewers are not subscribed. So please consider subscribing to the channel if you enjoy the video and learn something new. Makes me feel less dead inside when you do. And later on, if you decide to break up with me and unsubscribe, I promise I will not try and take half of your stuff. First of all, before we get into everything, some disclaimers. I play on Xbox Series X with a controller, an Elite controller. My FOV is currently set to 100. Sensitivity is set to 7, and I play inverted, so my up and down is reversed if you play normal. This is the second attempt at making this video about this topic. The first video, I watched it back and scrapped it right into the recycling bin and emptied the bin, and then started from scratch on this one. So please drop a like for my efforts. Why did I scrap the previous video? It got too complex. My goals for this video are to make this simple for you to understand. Some creators are making videos on this, including screenshots, tune attachments, and telling you how to build your weapon. I am not going to do that. Why? Your personal preference and how you play the game. And the overall problem with weapon tuning, which we'll get to later on. So here you can see I have the Cast-Off 7.62, which is high damage, high recoil, can be harder to control at range. At close range, does all right. All the way out there, we're starting to struggle a little bit hitting that last guy. So we are going to go to the gunsmith, and we're going to add some attachments to make this feel better and more usable and controllable. We can have 5 attachments on the weapon. Each attachments have pros and cons. So adding like a larger magazine, a heavier barrel, or a longer barrel is going to slow down your ADS sprint to fire time. Adding a laser is going to increase your ADS sprint to fire time. Pretty standard stuff from what we're used to from earlier Call of Duty games. And Modern Warfare 2 will penalize a bit more than previous Call of Duty games for adding attachments, making ADS, sprint to fire, aim walking speed all slower with the more attachments added to the weapon. Some of the weapons currently in multiplayer are performing better by not having 5 attachments. You might have seen that from other videos or other tips and tricks from other content creators. So keep that in mind when leveling up your weapons in multiplayer. So also in regards to attachments, just because you got a weapon to max level does not mean you have unlocked all the attachments for that weapon. I learned this the hard way in preparing this video, and you have to level up other weapons to unlock other attachments. So for example, if I want to add the last barrel on this, I can't. It is locked because I have to level up the RPK to level 16, which I've barely used. So I can't use the heavier barrel yet. So, and you can see that by looking at the weapon progression tree. By looking at this here, you can see the weapon progression and you can see the track. And then if we arrow down here, we can see where that barrel is on the RPK, which is here at level 16 to get that barrel. Some of these weapon trees tend to be bugged and not line up properly when you're scrolling through there, so just one of those annoying things, so watch out for that. So now we're going to go do some testing and build out the 7.62 here. First, we're going to go back to the firing range, and we're going to turn around and we're going to shoot this door here on the right hand side, not adjusting for any recoil. And we're going to do another one right next to it. So that is our recoil pattern. We can see couple initial starts, then it starts to kick up to the right, and then up more, and then it starts going steadily up to the right after that. So we already shot the targets with no attachments. We can see hitting these first two was pretty manageable with no attachments and how the weapon currently is built, but that last target is hard to hit. So before we add some attachments, we're going to talk about different types of recoil and define them. So we have the vertical and horizontal recoil, which we're used to seeing in there, but we also have recoil smoothness, which is how much the recoil changes. Recoil stabilization, which is how long the weapon takes to get into its pattern after initially firing. Recoil steadiness, which is the upward and left to right bounce. So if we go back here and look at our door pattern, you can kind of see that visually represented. So we have, as you can see how the pattern changes from each time we shot. So that is the recoil smoothness, the stabilization, getting it into its pattern. So we see these initial shots here, and then it's more conform and continuous in one direction there. Now we're going to add some attachments to improve the weapon, and we're going to build this out. So now we're going to go to the gunsmith, and we are going to add some attachments to make this better and more manageable to use. We'll start up here with the VLK optic, just because that's kind of what most people are familiar with from Modern Warfare 2019. We are going to add a laser to increase our ADS, aim to fire speed. We are going to go with this one because it has the most benefits, and the only con is the laser is visible, which we don't care about that. We're going to skip on the magazine because, like I said earlier, we don't really need to add that for multiplayer. We're going to add a barrel. We're going to go with this one since it has recoil control and bullet velocity. We are going to add a rear grip, and we're going to add the TrueTac grip. If we look at this, it's sprint to fire time, ADS time increase, but recoil control, if we look down the stats there, it's a plus to handling, which is what we want. And then we're going to add a muzzle. I tried some suppressors earlier. They were still kind of bouncy all over the place. We're going to put on this tread 40 here for vertical recoil control and horizontal recoil control. And then now we're going to go back to the firing range and shoot some more with it untuned. So you can see now a little bit more manageable at range. The recoil control is still not where I like it, which is where we'll come back into tuning. If you burst fire it, a little bit manageable at range. And then also single fire. Not bad either. So now we're going to go back to the gunsmith and we're going to tune these attachments. First, we're going to tune the optic. So one of my biggest problems with the weapon tuning is to make the adjustments to the Y and X axis on these here. It's both the left thumbstick on the controller. It would have been nicer if to do the bottom one if it was the right thumbstick. So you can kind of see if you're messing around with it, you can move both at the same time. So we are going to increase the ADS speed slightly. We want to avoid extremes, and you don't want to max out your adjustments. And then we're going to move the optic a little bit further away, mounted on the weapon, so for less visual recoil reticle bounce. So what do we mean by that? So if we go back to the firing range and I zoom in, it's that bob there on the sights or the sway. So now we're going to start tuning the rest of the attachments. So think of weapon tuning as fine tuning your weapon. You built the weapon the way you like it. Now you're fine tuning it like an instrument, which brings us back to your personal preference and how you play the game, what input device you use, controller or mouse and keyboard. So we're going to go here. You can't tune the laser, so I'm going to go up here, tune the barrel. We are going to increase the damage range slightly, and we're going to increase the recoil steadiness. And then now we're going to tune the muzzle. So we're going to turn up the gun kick, tune that up, and recoil stabilization, we're going to increase that as well. Go over here to our grip. We can tune the grip. So we're going to turn up the recoil steadiness, and we're going to turn up the idle sway stability. And then now we're going to go back to the firing range and try again. So you can see better improvement, and also my aim is warming up a little bit. So already feeling pretty good. Probably be even better at the last barrel unlocked here. And then now we're going to go back here and we're going to shoot the door again and not adjust for the recoil like we did. So huge difference and why it can be beneficial. So again, think of weapon tuning as fine tuning your weapon build, tweaking it just to get the way you want it. Maybe you added something and it slowed down the ADS a little bit more than you wanted. You can go in and tweak it and bring that ADS back. So now we're going to talk about the huge problem with all this and the weapon tuning. So now that we have tuned it, got it just the way we want it, there currently is no way to save your tuned weapon in the game. You cannot save it. So if we delete this loadout, create a new custom loadout, and we want to use this tuned loadout again, we have to come back, rebuild it, and retune the weapon. Huge problem with that. So that is why some people are including screenshots with the graphs for tuning. So if we go back to look at the gunsmith and we look at the tune, there's people are screenshotting these and saving them. Problem with that is you have up to 5 attachments on a weapon. Are you going to save all these screenshots and go back and refer them to them? So that is weapon tuning in a nutshell. I think it can be beneficial. Right now, I hope they fix this in this update and you can save this as a blueprint to make it easier and not have to go back in here and fine-tune your weapons the way you want it each time you like it. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Curious to see what your thoughts are. Thanks for watching and take care.